Story 1. I am a truck driver. I have been to all lower 48 states for work. Undoubtedly, it's Mississippi. There is nothing redeeming about the entire state. Other red states have their own charm, culture, or geography. Mississippi has nothing but politicians who have failed their people and crumbling infrastructure. Story 2. I went to New York once. That place is so mean and nice. I was on the train with my bike, and the conductor yells at me, saying I can't have my bike in the first car. He asks me where I'm going to. I say X. Later on, I hear on the intercom, if you're going to X, get off here to transfer. Laughing out loud. Story 3. Mississippi, or anywhere in the deep south. I drove through there once on a road trip and never went back again. Not going to lie, I've heard stories that would make you sleep with one eye open. Like the one about the dude who moved out to that cabin with his dog. You don't even want to know what happened. Story 4. All this Mississippi hate, and it was my absolute favorite place I've ever lived. I would go back in a heartbeat if it were up to me. Now, Oklahoma is a special kind of hell, though. Story 5. Probably gas? I think I would float away or at least get absorbed into my couch. I recognize I am already part gas, but being completely gas would suck. But also, Mississippi is objectively the worst state in the United States of America. I would rather be a cancerous mole in Florida than a debutante in Mississippi. Story 6. I would have said Mississippi until I actually went camping there, yes, as a black woman, and those pine trees down south are gorgeous, as are some of the beaches. But I don't really feel the need to go back. Laugh out loud. Now, Arkansas, I don't know why I would ever end up there except that I would like to visit every state. I'd also say, why visit Indiana as someone who once was forced to live formative years in Indiana? I won't be returning, ha 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 ha. Idaho is so conservative that it scares me. But thankfully, I don't need comprehensive obstetrics/gynecology care there, so I guess I'll visit one day for the nature. If it weren't pretty, it would be a hard pass. So yeah, Arkansas. Final answer. Story 7. Nevada. I have visited Reno and Lake Tahoe as well as Las Vegas. Those places offered some amusement, but after visiting, I did not wish to return. Beyond those locations, it's primarily desert, which has a rather post-apocalyptic appearance. Overall, not my favorite state. Story 8. I think Glenn Kirshner summed it up best. He was a big deal in the Department of Justice for 30 years. He described Pennsylvania as Pittsburgh to the west, Philadelphia to the east, and Alabama in the middle. Story 9. Florida. I'm from Michigan, and everyone up here goes there for vacation. We joke that it's Michigan's lower peninsula. And don't get me started on the political stuff. Story 10. I'm not saying this makes New Jersey the worst state, but that's the only place I've ever been where I saw a guy holding pizza in one hand and Chinese food in the other, confidently hop onto someone's car hood at a stoplight, leap over to another car in the other lane, and then leap to the other side of the sidewalk as if he didn't just do that. But Orlando, Florida has its own issues, so I don't know. Story 11. No state I wouldn't visit. I've at least eaten a meal in most of them. Plenty I wouldn't live in unless it was so much money that I could buy the state and kick out the locals. Story 12. As an avid travel and geography nerd, there isn't one state I do not find intriguing. I think every single state has something I would like to see. That being said, the one at the bottom of my list, both for states I've already been to and states I want to visit or revisit, is Missouri. Story 13. I am from Mississippi, the state everyone loves to criticize, and these polls are so insipid and unintelligent. There is not a state on the map that is homogeneous. For example, Mississippi has 4 distinct regions: the Delta, the Coast, Northeast Mississippi, and the Jackson metropolitan area. Do we have our problems? Absolutely, but we are not the only ones. And on a positive note, per capita, we are number 1 in charitable giving. And we have got rivers, lakes, coastline, good food, and a lot of really nice people. As far as answering this uninspired poll, I would drive through all of them. Story 14. I have been to 44 different states for varying amounts of time, and the week I spent in Florida was enough to convince me to never set eyes upon or step foot in it ever again. Story 15. Mississippian here. Not back home by choice, so no bias. Pros: great food, music, literature, football, it's cheap. Cons: Republican Party members who run the state. I've lived in other places, and the racism here is not greater than in other states, just more out in the open. Story 16. Nebraska? I don't know. I enjoy traveling so much that nothing jumped right out at me. I hardly know anything about Nebraska, but I'm sure I could find something to do or visit. That visit just might not be high on my list of importance. Sorry, Nebraska. I'm open for suggestions. Story 17. I also have to say Mississippi. I had to go there once for 3 days on a job when I was younger. Every single scene from the movie Deliverance and more was witnessed during that trip. It was like being on another planet where everybody is each other's cousin, parent, and spouse. We could not wait to get out of there and took the risk of getting a speeding ticket to get out even quicker. I'm sure there are some nice people scattered about in Mississippi if you look for them. But everywhere we went, we could hear banjos faintly in the background. Story 18. I've been to all 50 states, and there is not a single one that you couldn't pay me to go back to. Some are more appealing than others, of course, but I found something nice about each one. In fact, the ones that I like the least are the ones I feel like I should probably give another shot so I can see what I might have missed. Story 19. Honestly, Arizona and New Mexico are at the top of my list. I will probably end up in that corner of the country just because of the Grand Canyon, but I sweat when it is hotter than 70 degrees Fahrenheit outside, so I will make sure to go in December or January. Story 20. Anything east of the Mississippi River, west of the Idaho/Washington border, and south of Nebraska with a higher population density than South Dakota. The one that has cities and lots of other humans. Story 21. Coast of Maine chiming in here, and I want to go to Iowa or someplace that has a big state fair and eat my way through it, and Kansas City to watch football. You guys have college football, boiled peanuts, great live music. And for some reason, I seldom see homeless populations like we have here. Then I'm coming straight home because the middle and southern US has too many low-quality fast food places, strip malls, and apparently, no one listened to Bob Barker when he said to spay or neuter your pets. Story 22. Someone who drives through Indiana, Illinois, and Mississippi. I have strong negative feelings toward them all. I dislike them, and the storm never fails to catch me, and the construction is annoying. They have been in construction for 5 years. Story 23. North Dakota, Mississippi, Kansas, Kentucky, Arkansas. Probably a couple more there if I think hard enough. I feel like I would end up doing drugs just to pass time in a place like this. Story 24. California, lived there for 4 years and it is disgusting. The last year there, I started my days with a trash picker and a bucket so I could go to sleep not feeling terrible. I would see 1 or 2 other men my age out doing the same thing every day. Those people do not care about anything that they are not told to care about on their little screens. Story 25. Every time I go to a state that everybody says is bad, I have been pleasantly surprised by how not bad it is. I need to go to Mississippi to see all the hype. Story 26. Jubaland. The entirety of Somalia is embroiled in a civil war, but that part is almost completely controlled by anti-government forces, so I can't imagine it's nice staying there. Story 27. Oh, that's easy. We're in Eastern Oregon, where my husband grew up. He was offered a job in Boise, Idaho once. That was a hard pass. He immediately declined. If we wanted to live in Idaho, it's right there, and we could very easily do so. We do not want to. Story 28. I can't think of one besides Texas. I went one time for a cheer competition, and in my uniform, hair, and makeup, I got the meanest looks and stares I've gotten, and I've been to a good amount of states for competitions. People talk about Southern hospitality, but the 3 days I was there, people were nothing but rude. Story 29. North Dakota. We went there for a wedding and had planned to stay for a few days before spending time in other states on our way home. Nope. So incredibly boring. We couldn't wait to get away from there. We left the next morning bright and early. Story 30. California. That place is perceived by some as a dry wasteland. There are way too many people, traffic issues, homelessness, drugs, and crime rates are extremely high. Everything there is expensive. Although there are some nice areas, for some, they are not substantial enough to ever want to go back, even for a visit. There's a reason more than 2 million people have left the state in the last 5 years. Story 31. I wish I could say Texas, but I live there. If I never lived here, then you would not be able to ever pay me to travel to this absolute hellhole of a state. Texas is so conservative and messed up that we might as well be in the Middle Ages again. Story 32. Arizona. I went there for work recently and me and that place did not mix well at all. Google Maps led me astray. The atmosphere was weird to an extreme. I became extremely ill, and the place felt depressing. As I drove out of the city, there was a subconscious sense of relief. I will never go back.